vibrant team members of the Ullas Commerce Center for Family Business, Disha, and also my own student, who was a student here of my institute. Melissa is here, and a couple of guys who are here, and pronounced once again. So I'll be taking you with me for about 30 to 35 minutes, a brief ride, okay? Not much because the time is a constraint and time is always flying, as we know. My topic today for you is design thinking. Usually I used to conduct a workshop on this for about, say, 6 to 7 hours at a stretch. But today we have to and we got to condense it only to the extent of 35 to 40 minutes. Of course, I extended again 5 minutes with your permission. Let's go, and here we go. Design thinking in a contemporary world, some practice points. So at the end of the day, if you're asking, are there any some takeaway lessons to me? Yes, indeed. Let's start. Setting the context. So I'll be dwelling on these important points for you. We know that the time is a constraint, so we'll be briefly dwelling on why design thinking now, what is design thinking, what are the key principles of design thinking, are there success case stories in design thinking, and finally, as I already said, some final practice points. So ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Please reflect. Reflect means we are only making an effort to see our own thought patterns in a newer and better way. That's called reflection, bending backward and taking a position of our own thought pattern, which we thought it earlier and we are again thinking about it. We know that Thomas Alva Edison created the electric light bulb and then wrapped an entire industry around it. Look at the word which I'm using, or rather I'm very choosy in using the words here. He wrapped the entire industry around it. The light bulb was a signature invention. I think I need not say about this. We are pretty aware of this. I'm talking about another part of the story of this. Edison understood that the bulb was of no use without a system of electric power generation and the transmission to make it truly useful. This, perhaps, many of us are not aware. And it was Edison who was responsible for the development of a proper system of electric power generation in the United States of America and the transmission to make his own creation pretty useful to the people. He was able to envision how people would want to use what he made and what he engineered toward that insight. And he was very particular about this, and that was perhaps one of the reasons why, along with the invention of the bulb, he wanted to develop a system to see that that bulb, which is a brainchild of him, is going to light and light forever. Let me make a distinction between the sight and the insight, because when we talk about design thinking, many of the things that I'm talking here is pertaining to insight. Now, insight, what we say in Kannada, is the Valanota. Now, sight is different and insight is different. Sight is something like what we see through our panchendriyas. They are the windows to the world. We can see, we can gauge, we can understand. But the insight is something different. What is that insight? The brain scientists will say, make a distinction between sight and insight. A soldier fights with the sight and a warrior with the insight. This is a very beautiful statement. To know exactly what is insight, here is a fantastic example to go with. Insight comes from the underlying sources of all thoughts. It is not a thought per se. Underlying sources of all thoughts put together we call insight, basically. Insight integrates the parts into whole. Note this word very carefully, because this is one of the something catchy about the design thinking, which we need to dwell on at a later slides, which I follow with. Believe me, friends, Edison's approach was an early classic example of what now we call design thinking. Something here you are going to see, and which is very much emphasized than or. Generally we say this or that, this or that. No. It is this and that. So, and is a very powerful word here that makes a sense when you are getting into these kinds of thinking process, which I'll explain to you a little later. So, Edison could envision this, and today is considered to be one of the pioneers of design thinking across the globe. Even in Harvard also, they talk about Edison. Without starting with the Edison, your journey or your navigation into design thinking is going to be something incomplete. So, design thinking is a methodology packed with innovation activities with a human-centered design principles. This is the crux. Now, generally as human beings, what is our ultra level of helping others? What is our ultra level of looking at a particular problem? So, human-centered dimension, which is being embossed with innovation activity, can make a design thinking at the end of the day. So, human-centered is a particular word that we need to dwell on at a later point of time too. Next one. How Edison did it. Edison's Menlo Park laboratory, even today, if you visit to United States of America, which is in Menlo Park in the New Jersey, United States of America, he was surrounded by gifted thinkers, look at the word, improvisers, developers, experimenters, and interdisciplinary approach to problem solving. At that point of time itself, he was good enough to appoint all these people, surrounded by all these teammates, along with this genius inventor there. Improvisers were there, developers were there, artists were there, musicians were there. Look at this very principle and approach that he developed to develop a particular product and to make it such a beautiful human-centered product at the end of the day, so that at the end of the day, I should buy. There is no point in telling that I don't want to buy, because it is designed by keeping you in the mind. When the product is designed by keeping you in the mind, I don't think that you will not buy it. You will not be a part of that process. This was the thinking of Edison. That is why he's considered to be a master designer at that point of time. He broke the tradition of lone genius inventor and created a team-based approach to innovation. That was the first thing to be noted with regard to Thomas Alva Edison. He believed innovation is hard work, a profession. When I say a profession, I have a definition for a profession. A profession or a professional who practices the profession is the one who works with the merit of the case. For example, at the exact point of time, the entire team requested me to pitch in and to start with the session. So I am on the merit of the case. So when you are a professional, you are always working on the merit, top merit of the case. So with that sense, I'm using the word a professional approach to innovation that blended with art, craft, science, and culture. Now the question is why? Just to understand very deeply customer mindset. I know that you're all wonderful entrepreneurs here and you have a fantastic journey of experience of knowing the world, especially of the business world, in a most beautiful way. So here, customer today is a sense. I may be satisfied, but the customer inside me is the true customer. He got to be satisfied because he is generally considered to be a frenemy. A frenemy is one. A customer is a friend also. Customer is an enemy also, as you know very well. At any point of time, if the customer has not been treated well, and he or she of that customer may tend to be an enemy at any point of time. So he or she that needs to be satisfied. And design thinking is actually meant for that. Blend of friend and enemy. So empathy is very essential to navigate with the customer. Empathy is generally, as you know, it's basically about how I feel, you feel. So this empathetic way of getting into and doing the things, and to see that at the end of the day, that the customer is going to be satisfied with that, is the hardcore thing that got to be noticed with regard to the study of, or with regard to the understanding of design thinking. So far so good, a kind of flashback that I had given. Why design thinking now? If you go with my context, which I set out in the beginning, you can see now exactly, I'm with the second one that you can see here as the top. Why design thinking now? Please remember, in a VUCA and disruptive world, we are all living in that world. Volatility is there, uncertainty is there, and complexity is there, and ambiguity is there, and also disruptive world, as you know very well, better than me perhaps, that if I am not going to disrupt others, they will disrupt me, or I being disrupted by others. Otherwise, I have to disrupt others. I mean, my competitors. So, in this kind of a world, traditional model of innovation proved to be inadequate. This is what the research will say at the end of the day, that the traditional model of innovation has been proved to be inadequate, and that's why we have to pitch into a new level of thinking, which is called design thinking. Why? I will just prove it in the next slide of mine, which is already being shown. We know one of the most widely adopted models of new product development, which has been taught to us when we were the students, and you're also aware of it, and innovation is the stage gate model. Believe me, what is the stage gate model? This has been in existence for a long time. It starts with, I think you're all experimenting this, it starts with the ideas, that is the gate 1, initial screening, stage 1, preliminary investigation, gate 2, second screen, stage 2, detailed investigation, gate 3, business case, stage 3, development, and finally, stage 5, production and market launch, and post-implementation review, which has been taught to the students in MBAs about the new product development, launching, everything. And this has been proved to be inadequate in the light of the ambiguity, VUCA world, and disruptions. That's why we have to look for something new, something novel, something really that can take to a next level of thinking. No doubt, the model is very neat. I'm not commenting about this model. This model is pretty neat, pretty clear. And unfortunately, it does not work at high levels of ambiguity, which I already said of the VUCA world, and that was disruptive world. It may not work well in the case of that kind of a world which we are a part of it today or encountering it today, which is a reality in today's business world. This actually, we have to see how the storyline is being developed by me in the course of my lecture to you. We will now reflect over the glorious product failures. I think this will give you a lot of weight for us, why we have to be design thinkers. So next slide, which I'll start with this, as you can see here, which are the glorious product failures. I think you're also aware, they have religiously gone through stage gate process. Fortunately or unfortunately, they have religiously followed the stage gate process. I think A to Z, or say Z to A. Next one. These products were impeccably executed. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly note, no dearth of funds for them. Then what happened? Lack of empathy was the reason for its failures. The researchers came out with a tacit conclusion that to many of these products, which I have cited here for your consumption here, you can see that many of these products have failed, perhaps the great failures. One of the reasons that the researchers have found out for this is that of, as I already said, empathy was not there. Human-centered approach was not there in the truest sense of the term. Which are those failure products? You have here, that is, as I said already, that they were not really designed by keeping customer in mind. That's one of the reasons why they failed very miserably. Which were they? Apple Newton, Sony Betamax, Microsoft Zune, Segway, Toshiba HD DVD, Google Glass, especially Google Glass. Empathy was totally a zero factor in this. That was one of the reasons why the utter failure of this. Samsung Galaxy Note 7, Tata Nano, Godrej Chotocool compact fridge. Some of the foreign products I also mixed along with the Indian great failures here. And the reason for this, as you can understand here, one of the strongest reasons was that, as I told you, they were not designed in the sense that by keeping the customer in mind. That was the failure. Let's move on to the next one. What went wrong with the stage gate process? You are very curious to know what went wrong with this particular process. And here is the answer that I wanted to share with you. If you observe very carefully, it all starts with an idea, which has been taught to us right from the day one when we were the students in MBA or in different branches as management students. Only the idea. There lies the seed of the trouble. Idea for what? We don't know. For whom? We are not pretty clear. What problem does it address? We don't know. To whom it has been attended to? We don't know. These are not clear. So just you toss the idea. without knowing exactly what you do with the idea for what, idea on what, idea in what, everything is not clear. I think at the end of the day, failure, failure, failure. What? Okay. Yes, starting with an idea, not a problem, is the sin generally most entrepreneurs commit. Kindly correct me if I'm wrong. Is the sin that most of the entrepreneurs generally commit. Because believe me, ladies and gentlemen, everything that we come across in this world is a problem. And Dr. T.M.A. Pai once beautifully said, when he was alive, the Brahma of Manipal, as you know very well, Manipal group, he said, if it is, I quote, if it is an issue, you have to tackle it. If it is a hurdle, you have to overcome it. If it is a problem, you have to solve it. The subtle differences and the distinction between these three is very, very important. For that, a guy requires an insight. Many a time, they are all overlapping. An issue can even become a hurdle can become even a problem. Many of my students also have these kinds of things. Many of the times they come and say, an issue is glorified as a problem. Actually, it is not a problem. When you say an issue, it can be easily tackled if we start looking at from different dimensions with little insight. But a problem is a problem is a problem because problem is a problem that got to be solved. And in business, as you know, and you will agree with me, that most of the things that we confront are problems. And if even the students join MBA, for what? They wanted to get a good job, good placement. That's a problem for them. What is the solution that you provide? An MBA course with a very designed structure you are going to provide with them, and also placement you are going to provide. They are happy because solution is provided. Hunger is a problem for me. I got to satisfy it. I'm thirsty is a problem. I missed the bus is a problem. So basically, this problem approach and the solution to the same is very, very important than just talking about the idea factor. Well, starting with an idea. Experimenting with many diverse ideas is very crucial to innovation projects. The faster the experimentation cycle, the more feedback can be gathered and incorporated into new rounds of experiments with novel and risky ideas. I think this is quite a fashionable thought that we talk about in the corporate arena today. But the basic thing that we have to commit is on problems. Next one, sir. We need a model more flexible, ultra closer to end users, open to feedback on an ongoing basis. What is that approach? In the light of this, I have tossed another important thing for you to reflect over. It is definitely design thinking. What is design thinking? Design thinking is a systematic, human-centric approach of problem solving. Design thinking is to innovation what Six Sigma is to quality. You have a fantastic gentleman here, is none other than the Chief Design Officer of PepsiCo, appointed by the then MD of PepsiCo, you know, none other than that Indra Nui. And his name is Mauro Porcini. He is the one who made, especially the PepsiCo, a beautiful ride when it had a lot of problems with regard to its best brands being a failure. And there was a time when even that lady was made to quit. But this gentleman, whom she appointed, could save. And now I am giving some kind of a very beautiful examples and the experiment that has been conducted by Mauro Porcini also to you. Innovation by definition is risky. Mauro Porcini, Chief Design Officer of PepsiCo, United States. In design thinking, the emphasis is on thinking and doing. Simultaneously, note the word, ladies and gentlemen, thinking and doing together, and not just on designing. Because when we say designing, generally we keep it in the mind that designing a beautiful piece and aesthetic kind of a thing, that comes to our mind when we toss the word designing. But it is not that one which I am emphasizing here. So the basic thing here is on thinking and doing and not just designing. The outcome may be a product, a process, or a service. More significantly, an experience. and experiences not just at the level of the company, customer interface, but for the entire business ecosystem. And that experience which I'm talking here is something which is a part and parcel of the philosophy of design thinking. Sir, next. Design thinking is an essential tool for simplifying and humanizing everything you do, which I am practicing a little as a professor in this institute. Simplifying and humanizing everything you do. Note the word very, very carefully here. Here is a catch. We need to regularly invoke the spirits of Edison, Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, and refer to the deeds of Elon Musk, Jack Ma, and Jeff Bezos to steer people into thinking about innovation and creativity. And innovation is all about a process of doing new things. Process is always, language is a process, living is a process, breathing is a process. There is no end to it, only the beginning. It's on and on and on and on. Perhaps keeping this in mind, Narayan Murthy said, innovate or perish, because it's on and on and on and on. What is creativity? Creativity is the ability to bring something new into existence. And innovation definitely requires creativity. They always go together. We should remember that design thinking involves humans, their desires, emotions, pains, aspirations, behaviors, kinesthetic, and not other dimensions of being. Naturally, I said earlier, this is the third time I'm quoting that. I designed a product by keeping you in my mind. I lectured on a given topic by fully understanding what my students have to be taught and what they are looking for from me as a teacher. If I could understand, get into their domain of thinking and emotions and kinesthetics, I'm going to be a good teacher. Why? They have already accommodated me into their thinking. Same logic can be extended in the case of the products and services too. That's one of the reasons why I thought this topic is very wonderful to all wonderful corporates who are here. What are the key principles of design thinking? Very quickly we'll go through, then we'll take some questions. At the end of the day, a successful focused enterprise is one that has developed a deep understanding of its customers' needs, its competitive environment, and economic realities. This was told by Louis Gessner, the former CEO of IBM. I think there is a point that we can have some takeaways out of this and link it to the design thinking, which I'm going to talk about. Sir, next. Design, these are the principles of design thinking. Some of the tenets of design thinking. One by one, we'll look into very, very quickly. Then we'll take some case studies, as I pointed out in the first slide of mine. Being the human to the center of your work. Human centricity that translates into customer centricity. Basically, you are thinking of a customer whose problem you wish to solve. At Amazon, beautiful example, it is bringing customer perspective to the table, hearing the voice of the customer's customer at every moment of time. It is not about designing as much as about thinking. Emphasis is increasingly on thinking than on designing. Instead of thinking about what to build, you are learning to build in order to think. It's a fine statement. Instead of thinking about what to build, you are learning to build in order to think. Next one, focus on the subject, not the object. It is bringing to our consciousness the notion of human centricity. Consciousness is basically to know with of anything that you come across. And that consciousness has been brought to the table and to the product and the service which I am going to design and being meant for you. For example, a pen, adding value to it. How? In the traditional approach, you would start with a pen and try to improve it with more features, less waste, broader variety, more functionality, etc. But in design thinking approach, you would start with a question. Why does the user need the pen? Slightly different, sir, madam. Why does the user I repeat, need the pen. The answer could be well beyond the obvious. For writing, even pen for adornment. In design thinking, function matters more than the form. Solve the problem with the customer, not for the customer. A slight changes in the words can make magic with the work. Solve the problem with the customer, not for the customer. And principle is again emphasized here that you can notice. Next, design thinking is creating multipolar experience. At a time, it creates multipolar experience. That's one of the reasons why I told you when Edison designed his own thinking at that point of time, he had a bunch of people who had been drawn from different fields. Artists, musicians, thinkers, developers, improvisers. That you can see. Still today, the flavor of it in the particular statement when I mentioned here that design thinking is creating multipolar experience, everyone has the opportunity to participate in conversation. I think Sir is doing it absolutely good. You know, many a times we have been doing design thinking in an informal way. But here is the class and the structured class wherein with the modules we are making it a very formal one so that our own performance will improve and add value to the work that we have been doing. Design thinking is not linear, ladies and gentlemen. It is full of iterative in character. You will come down like a snake and ladder game. And you are required to have a robust patience in you to work with the design thinking operations. At the end of the day, 100% there is a reward and an assurance. But the thing is, we need to be so much with the prowess of our own patience to see at the end of the day, we really meet the customer need, because needs are very deep than wants, we know in business. Please reflect the stylized thinking here. Last point, sir. One with another, same as the style of thinking of Edison that you can notice here. I tossed this idea in the beginning of my slide when I started with setting the context, and you can see the same stylized thinking here. This is all about and not or. The Japanese style. And is a very powerful word than or. So, and is something like which is incorporated into the design thinking philosophy. Think beyond the products. Maruti introduced Maruti True Value in 2001, a marketplace for pre-owned cars, which would soon become a reliable avenue for Maruti to upsell its product to existing customers. The cars sold at the outlets undergo a 376-point check, quality evaluation, refurbishment, and certification process. Customers are offered up to 1 year warranty and 3 free service. By 2019, there were 250 True Value centers across 151 cities in India. I am seeing a design thinking in action in the very philosophy and operations of Maruti there. To make customer centricity, Maruti started in 2007, Maruti Driving School. By 2018, 1 million drivers were trained. So I can take 10 minutes last.
No, I just want to talk about it.
10 minutes I can take.
Yeah, because the other speaker is already there.
Oh, right. Yeah. So just 5 to 8 minutes. Please reflect the I think this is over, no? Yeah. I think this is all about that. I'll share the slides with you because time is a constraint. Time just flies. Next one, sir. Strike a balance between desirability, feasibility, and viability. Just I'm reading it out. Desirability is about human factors. What does the human really desire, not just need or want? Next, technical feasibility is a set of technical factors. Does the idea really deliver what it promises? Last one, business viability is about economic factors. Does the idea make business sense? Next, sir. Sell the problem before you sell the solution. I think that's the key. Here, I quoted already of Dr. T. Pai here, which already you can see. Fail often to succeed sooner. Next, please. Elon Musk, one of the foremost innovators of the present generation, says, quote, failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough. Jeff Bezos, if you want to be inventive, you have to be willing to fail. I think I'll take 1 or 2 success stories, just 2 or 3 minutes, sir. With that, I'll stop. Design thinking. There are, you hear design thinking at PepsiCo. I already quoted this. Indra Nui's experiments there, and what happened because of the introduction of design thinking by Mauro Poricini. I already stated it. That's the story. You can read it. Next one. Nui appointed Mauro Porcini as chief design officer, and her own statement here, design then has become a voice in many important decisions at Pepsi, and PepsiCo experienced total transformation thanks to the efforts of Porcini and that of Indra Nui. Next one, design thinking at Aravind Eye Hospital, which has been quoted as one of the very fantastic case studies in Harvard Business Review for the work which has been done by them. Aravind Eye Hospital is an experimental case for design thinking, especially if you are reading. This one particular statement is enough to talk about that. It has its own manufacturing unit. A pair of intraocular lenses made in Western countries cost $200, but they could make it only with $4 a pair. This speaks about design thinking. Last one, I think it's almost McDonald's story you can understand. Twitter on design thinking is a practical story for you. Only a passing reference I would like to give because the time is already up. So Twitter story is also for you. Next one. So finally, you can all read everything about medicine also today. In holistic medicine is the outcome of design thinking. When a doctor is going to see a patient and the patient is required to open up with all his or her problems, family background, everything, which is again design thinking. And read this, holistic medicine, better understanding of the diseases and people, not just symptoms, but the medical history of a patient. Patient is viewed from different angles. This is design thinking in medicine today, for your kind information. Finally, the practice points for you. Last one, a design thinker is an expert problem solver. To become a practitioner in design thinking, one needs to have a clear head, a deep heart, and a thick skin. A clear head would help you to go through a complex problem. A deep heart makes you more empathetic, and a thick skin is necessary for failure tolerance. Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity which has been bestowed on me. Thanks to Sidpai sir and also my guru, Dr. Mallikarjunappa sir, and wonderful.
Wonderful. The token of our love and affection.
Yeah, sir.
Please, sir.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.